America's best days are yet to come. That's because conservatives like you know and live the values our great country was built on. The Heritage Foundation exists to make sure your voice is heard in the D.C. swamp each day, shining the light on a bright future. The Heritage Foundation stands for your values and won't give up the fight because they know you never will. Paid for by the Heritage Foundation.
He's here. He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
It's a deeply sad day. It's a deeply dark day. Deeply. When a young man with a wife and 2 baby girls, whose offense apparently is to engage, debate, challenge in a very happy and joyous way. To spend his young life fighting for his country and the president he so loved and helped elect is assassinated in broad daylight in front of several thousand students. The reports are a high-powered rifle at a long distance. One shot. There's going to be some kind of a press event. As soon as it appears, we will go right to it. You know, I'm looking at the texts. Charlie would text. And really a sweetheart. He was a man of deep, deep faith. He was a truly faithful Christian. He loved America. He loved our founding. He loved our history. He loved his audience. He loved intellectual challenges. He dropped out of college. Rush dropped out of college, and yet he's one of the smartest people you could know. We are going to play, in his honor, an interview I did of Charlie on Fox, on Life, Liberty, and Levin for the full hour when his book came out. And he couldn't stop praising me for having him on. He was so, what's the word? The guy didn't have an ego. He didn't have an ego. You know, it's a strange thing. I often go back and I look at the last texts and emails I had with Rush. Let's see here. And I was looking at these just before the show. And Charlie Kirk. And after the bombing of Iran, where we had a slight disagreement, he texted me, okay, you were right. Can we now join together in support of the president? He wrote my wife and me. I said, 100%. You got it, buddy. Sweetheart. You're just a sweetheart. Sends me a text out of the blue on July 26th when we did a show on Fox on Obama and what we uncovered here on the radio. And he writes, love this flashback episode you're airing, so very good. And Tulsi Gabbard came out with information. I said, thank you, my friend. I think we'll see you in studio tomorrow. This is when my book was coming out. He said, yes, I look forward to it. I want to get you back on my show about your book. I need to read it because it just came out. I said, thank you. And, just congratulations on your book. He's a busy young man, but never too busy. When Dennis Prager had his accident, he got out of the shower and fell and hit the back of his head on the bathtub. I don't know if I ever mentioned the specifics. He's the one who called me, horrified, incredibly upset, broken that Dennis Prager, we all were, but was paralyzed. Went to see him at the hospital. Kept me apprised of Prager's condition. Charlie did. When we would do events for KRLA Salem out in Los Angeles, he always sat next to me. You know why he always sat next to me? Because we would crack jokes to each other. Constantly. Crack jokes. Yep. And let's see here. I'm not going to read everything here because some of it's personal. Well, the legal issues. He saw something I posted. He said, need your wisdom on how we counter these injunctions. I'm at a loss. It's a major, major issue. I posted a photo, a little video my daughter had taken. It was on December 22nd, Sunday, at President Trump's club in Florida. Charlie was to the right of me, President to the left of me, Judge Janine to the left of him. He was having a blast. And he was talking about who we need in this cabinet position or that cabinet position and trying to enlist me. Hey, I'm having dinner with you and the president tonight. We're going to make a push for fill-in-the-blank position. If you can say some good things, that would be awesome. November 14th. Hey, Dennis just moved his foot voluntarily. That's a good sign. Listen to this, Rich. Because I said, how is he doing? And he would send other things where he was, where he was enlisting me in one battle or another. But always so pleasant. He wanted us to help with Nebraska, the Electoral College there. He was always looking for ways to advance the cause of liberty, always looking for ways to try and get President Trump elected, to influence college campuses. He came under attack by the left, of course, as being anti-Muslim. We came to his defense here. He heard about that. Very kind of you. Thank you, Mark. Means a lot. Just a very, very good man. president posted, I posted what he did. I'm sure the president is deeply upset. I guarantee it. I guarantee it. There were Shabbat dinners, some at Turning Point USA, because Charlie wanted to have them. And he would wear a kippah, a yarmulke. And we met his beautiful wife, Erica, several times. I have a tweet here from Charlie. Trying to see the date on this. I can't. You want to hear this, Mr. Producer? Assassination culture spreading on the left. This is Charlie Kirk. 48% of liberals say it would be at least somewhat justified to murder Elon Musk. 55% said the same about Donald Trump. In California, activists are naming ballot measures after Luigi Mangione. The left is being whipped up into a violent frenzy. Any setback, whether losing an election or losing a court case, justifies a maximally violent response. This is the natural outgrowth of left-wing protest culture, tolerating violence and mayhem for years on end. The cowardice of local prosecutors and school officials have turned the left into ticking time bombs. April 7, actually, 2025. My God, was he right. Absolutely incredible. Now, not just in the United States. Charlie's impact was felt around the world. This is from Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Charlie Kirk was murdered for speaking truth and defending freedom. A lion-hearted friend of Israel, he fought the lies and stood tall for Judeo-Christian civilization. I spoke to him only 2 weeks ago and invited him to Israel. Sadly, now that visit will not take place. We lost an incredible human being. His boundless pride in America and his valiant belief in free speech will leave a lasting impact. Rest in peace, Charlie Kirk. Yep. And we'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Folks, I have a question for you. Do you believe America's best days are still ahead? With the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence coming up in less than a year, my friends at the Heritage Foundation are taking stock of the current situation, and they need your input. They've launched a survey on America's future to gauge how Americans feel right now about where we are as a nation and where we're headed in the next 250 years. You know, for decades, your American values have been under attack, but now, with President Trump's administration in office, we have an opportunity to turn the tide and usher in a new golden age for America. But the Heritage Foundation needs to hear from you. What policies do patriots like you most care about? What do you believe are the defining principles of America? What legacy do you believe we should pass on to the next generation? Please visit heritage.org/Levin today and share your feedback and help shape the future of America. That's heritage.org/LEVIN. Paid for by the Heritage Foundation. We lost an extraordinary human being and patriot today, murdered by an assassin's bullet. But Charlie's legacy will never ever be silenced. He touched and influenced not a few or a few thousands, but hundreds of thousands. That is true. I knew him well over the years. We had a very good time. Intellectually and in terms of opinion. We were together doing Salem Radio KRLA events. I had him on TV and radio. I attended a few of his TPUSA events. He was a fan of my books. I'd like to talk about him. He was a delight. Always curious, happy, joyous, social, articulate. When we had a disagreement, like in the bombing of Iran, he was different than the rest. Civil, thoughtful, and we rarely had a disagreement. He loved Israel. But he would always circle back and wanted to make sure we were all good. Of course, we always were. Even thanked me for doing things for him that, in my mind, were no big deal, but to him deserved a mention. I know we all truly feel sick about this. For you and me, this one seems a lot different, doesn't it? For those of us who knew him and those who feel like you knew him personally, which are many of you, because that's the way he was. This is unimaginable. And the assassin who murdered him is still on the run. And again, as soon as we have the beginning of the press briefing, we will go immediately there. Mr. Producer, let the affiliates know that we may have to blow out breaks. Are you able to do that, or are we too late for that? Okay. I don't see anything happening yet. But I say to shoot somebody from that distance, 200 yards, with a rifle, one bullet, a kill shot in the neck. And no, I won't watch that video. I'm not going to watch it. It popped up. My wife saw it. She was almost hysterical. She was even closer to Charlie than I was, and I was very close to him.
Utah Valley University Vice President Val Peterson, who's been in touch with President Jimenez, and then we'll hear from Governor Cox. I'll turn the time over to Commissioner Mason.
Hello, everyone. I'm Bo Mason, Commissioner for the Utah Department of Public Safety. Today at approximately 12:20 Mountain Standard Time, political influencer Charlie Kirk was shot in an event at the Utah Valley University. He was taken by private vehicle to Timpanogos Hospital, where he later passed. The Utah Department of Public Safety will be co-leading this criminal investigation to find this killer, along with the Federal Bureau of Investigation. We're working in unison with the County Sheriff's Office, the local police department, and the University Police Department, all of which have been very cooperative and fully engaged in this process.
We will blow out this break, affiliates. We're going to go
Shortly
straight
after
with
the
this
shooting,
press
we did have a
conference.
suspect in custody, George Zinn, but he was released from custody after we identified that he did not match the shooting suspect and was not an accurate person of interest. However, he has been booked into the county jail by Utah Valley University Police Department for obstruction of justice. We do still have an active investigation for the person of interest. This incident occurred with a large crowd around. There was one shot fired and one victim. While the suspect is at large, we believe this was a targeted attack towards one individual. This is a tragic moment in our state and in our country. As we heal, we encourage everyone who is struggling with news of the incident to call 988, our state mental health crisis line. In addition to that, our partners with the FBI will also be discussing other ways we can communicate through the public for tips and other information. Thank you.
Good afternoon. On behalf of the FBI, we extend our sincerest condolences to the family and friends of Charlie Kirk. Our thoughts are also with the people who witnessed this traumatic event. We know that what you experienced was very difficult. Our thoughts are with you as well. As soon as we heard about the shooting, special agents and personnel from the Salt Lake field office responded immediately. We have full resources devoted to this investigation, including tactical, operational, investigative, and intelligence. To be clear, the FBI will fully support and co-lead this investigation alongside with our partners. We are working on setting up a digital media tip line, and as soon as it's established, we'll get that information out to everyone. I know there's a lot of questions. This is very much an active case, and this investigation is in its early stages. We are following all the leads and all the evidence. If anyone has any information, please report it to the FBI or local law enforcement. Thank you.
On behalf of President Tumenez, who we've been communicating with, and she's on her way back right now, I say that on behalf of Utah Valley University, we are shocked and saddened by the tragic passing of Charlie Kirk. We express our sincere condolences to the Kirk family. We grieve with our students, faculty, and staff who bore witness to this unspeakable tragedy. He was invited by the student group Turning Point USA to speak on our campus. We firmly believe that UVU is a place to share ideas and to debate openly and respectfully. Any attempt to infringe on those rights has no place here. We do not condone any form of violence at UVU and seek to make our campus a safe place for all.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us on this dark and tragic occasion. I want to thank our law enforcement officers who are leading this investigation, starting with Chief Long and his response here with the UVU Police Department. We're grateful for your leadership and your team. And again, to the speakers that you've just heard from who are co-leading this investigation. I also want to recognize Sheriff Mike Smith, who has been an invaluable partner as this investigation moves forward. I've been in touch with President Trump, with FBI Director Kash Patel. We are completely aligned with our state and federal partners as we work through this case. Now, this is a dark day for our state. It's a tragic day for our nation. And I want to be very clear that this is a political assassination. We are celebrating 250 years of the founding of this great nation. That founding document, the Declaration of Independence, that this great experiment on which we embarked together 250 years ago, that we are endowed by our Creator with certain unalienable rights. The first one of those is life. And today, a life was taken. Charlie Kirk was first and foremost a husband and a dad to two young children. He was also very much politically involved, and that's why he was here on campus. Charlie believed in the power of free speech and debate to shape ideas and to persuade people. Historically, our university campuses in this nation and here in the state of Utah have been the place where truth and ideas are formulated and debated. And that's what he does. He comes on college campuses and he debates. That is foundational to the formation of our country, to our most basic constitutional rights. And when someone takes the life of a person because of their ideas or their ideals, then that very constitutional foundation is threatened. Now, we have a person of interest in custody. The investigation is ongoing. But I want to make it crystal clear right now, to whoever did this, we will find you. We will try you. And we will hold you accountable to the furthest extent of the law. And I just want to remind people that we still have the death penalty here in the state of Utah.
Good.
Our nation is broken. We've had political assassinations recently in Minnesota. We had an attempted assassination on the governor of Pennsylvania. And we had an attempted assassination on a presidential candidate and former president of the United States, and now current president of the United States. Nothing I say can unite us as a country. Nothing I can say right now can fix what is broken. Nothing I can say can bring back Charlie Kirk. Our hearts are broken. We mourn with his wife, his children, his family, his friends. We mourn as a nation. If anyone in the sound of my voice celebrated even a little bit at the news of this shooting, I would beg you to look in the mirror and to see if you can find a better angel in there somewhere. I don't care what his politics are. I care that he was an American. We desperately need our country. We desperately need leaders in our country. But more than the leaders, we just need every single person in this country to think about where we are and where we want to be. To ask ourselves, is this it? Is this what 250 years has wrought on us? I pray that that's not the case. I pray that those who hated what Charlie Kirk stood for will put down their social media and their pens and pray for his family, and that all of us will try to find a way to stop hating our fellow Americans. With that, we're happy to take a few questions.
The FBI director is posting that a suspect is in custody. I would just like clarification. Do you or do you not have a suspected shooter in custody?
We have a person of interest in custody that is being interviewed right now.
That is not George Zinn.
That is not George Zinn. Okay. That is correct.
Is there any
still searching
or
looking for another shooter or anybody else related to this?
Yes, we are actively looking for anyone and everyone who has any possible information relating to the shooting.
Can you tell us details about the suspect being taken into custody? Where? How long ago?
We cannot at this point, but we will get you that information when we can.
Is there believed to be a second individual involved in the shooting?
At this point, there is no information that would lead us to believe that there is a second person involved.
Do we have Can you guys talk about the possible shooter?
Do you want to talk about what we know there? Yeah.
The only information we have on the suspect, the possible shooter, is taken from closed-circuit TV here on campus. We do have that. We're analyzing it, but it is security camera footage, so you can kind of guess what the quality of that is. But we do know dressed in all dark clothing, but we don't have a much better description other than that.
Where did the shot came from?
The shot came from here on campus, from a location at a
roof.
Potentially from a roof, yes. A longer distance shot from a roof.
So to clarify, with the security camera footage you have and the person of interest that's in custody, does that match up?
That's what we're trying to decipher right now.
So did FBI or DHS have anything on the threat board this morning?
I can't speak to that.
I'll just say that the investigation's ongoing, and as soon as we have further information, we will be sure to release it.
Any indications of foreign intelligence involvement?
As of now, I can't comment on any of that.
Thank you. Can you talk a little bit about the security of the event itself? Who was there security-wise, and what happens on these kind of events?
Chief Law.
So my name is Jeff Long. I'm the police chief here at UVU, and I'll tell you right now, we're devastated. We're a small police department. We have a very large campus. We have over 40,000 students, and we love our students. We love our visitors, and we're devastated by what happened today. This is the police chief's nightmare. I'm very saddened for the Kirk family. I know his wife and parents found out about this. You know, obviously he's away from home. He's here in Utah. They find out by a police officer that visits their home. That's tragic. Nobody wants that. But I can tell you about our venue today. This was an open venue. This was outside. We did have 6 officers working that event. We had probably over 3,000 people that were in attendance. It sat down in kind of a bowl area here on the central campus. We have a waterfall area. And so he was kind of in a lower area. Surrounded by buildings. We had some plainclothes police officers that were in the crowd as well. We train for these things, and you think you have things covered, and these things, unfortunately, they happen. You try to get your bases covered, and unfortunately today we didn't. And because of that, we had this tragic incident. So we did have officers there. We had Charlie Kirk's team. He has a security team that travels with him, and they were here with him when he was shot.
Was the gun recovered?
I'm sorry, see?
Was the weapon recovered?
At this point, I can't disclose that.
When Charlie Kirk was shot, there was a question being asked about mass shooting. Was that person apprehended, and do you know who asked that question?
Say the question again. I don't know if I understand what you're saying.
When Charlie Kirk was shot, he was answering a question about mass shootings specifically. Was that person apprehended, and do you know who asked that question?
I do not. We do not have that at this moment.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have time for just one more question, so thank you.
Yeah, a question for the chief as well. Was it your team or Kirk's team, or a combination of both, that kind of set the security protocol for the event?
So we work together. He has his team, and they do this all over the country. We all know that. This is not uncommon for them. They're very comfortable on campuses, and I was coordinating with his lead security guy, and so yeah, we were working together.
Was this a sharpshooter type shot?
Ladies and gentlemen, those are all the questions that will be answered today. Again, thank you for covering this. We will be updating you as soon as we have additional information through normal channels, working with law enforcement. Again, our deepest condolences to the Kirk family and to the students who were there today. I would just ask everyone everywhere to please pray for their family and to pray for our country. We need it now more than ever. Thank you.
Oh boy. Well, I thought what we would do during the course of this program, and all the affiliates down the line, we will take the usual breaks from this point forward, right, Mr. Producer? Well, let me put it to you this way. Charlie loved not just to read books, but to write books. And I went back and listened to an interview I did with him June 2024 on radio about his book. And took a look at an interview I did with him on Life, Liberty, and Levin in March 2020 on his prior book. And I said, this really does shine such a bright light on such a bright life. So we're going to start this. First radio. We'll take our breaks, and we will continue. We've got plenty of time. And Charlie deserves all of our time. So this program is done in honor of and memory of our friend Charlie Kirk. Why don't we take a break now, Mr. Producer, and all affiliates, and then we'll get started. We'll be right back. We're coming upon the 250th birthday of the United States, and it has me thinking, what will America look like 250 years from now? My friends at the Heritage Foundation want to know what you think. What policies should America prioritize? What principles should carry us into the decades ahead? As America enters a new golden age, Heritage recognizes that this is the time to take stock and to be intentional about how we shape the future of America. And they can't do it without your input. So please go to heritage.org/LEVIN and let them know what you think is important. Without patriots like you stepping up and speaking up for what you believe in, America as we know it can't survive for another 250 years. Please go to heritage.org/Levin, heritage.org/LEVIN. Take the survey on America's future. This survey takes less than 10 minutes to complete, but it is critical for making sure that the America we pass on to future generations is an America we're proud of. Go to heritage.org/Levin today. That's heritage.org/LEVIN. Paid for by the Heritage Foundation. Charlie Kirk on radio with me, June 2024, with his new book, Cut One, Go. You know, I get a lot of books, America. I read a lot of books. So I got, just yesterday, Charlie Kirk's brand new book, Right Wing Revolution, How to Beat the Woke and Save the West. So I started reading it last night. I read it into this morning. I actually finished it. And I'll tell you what is fantastic about this book. Charlie lays out a prescription for saving the country that would actually work. That would actually work. And it is so beautifully written in plain English. I'm telling you, I moved right through the book. Charlie Kirk, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing great, Mark. It's a great honor that you read the book and you're having me on, and you've been such a great advocate and friend for years. We always have your back, and you've had mine, and thank you so much. The book is doing really well, and God bless you, my friend.
You're a good man. This is a great book, Right Wing Revolution, How to Beat the Woke and Save the West. I'll give you an example, America. This book is broken out very logically. What's happened to America, he explains. Changing your own attitude. And he talks about things you need to do, and he's so right about it. Changing the country. And being willing to be yourself. That is, stand up to what's taking place here. So let's go through this, Charlie Kirk. We have two good long segments. So first you lay out, look, here's the threat, and this is what's woke. Give us a little synopsis of that.
Yeah, absolutely, Mark. And, part of what we talk about in this book is diagnosing the problem correctly. You know, a lot of people will use the term wokeism or wokeness, but they won't be able to define what woke actually is. Woke is complaining about an injustice until you control the institution. So it is complaining as a means to control. That is very important. It is about power. The American left is about power for power's sake. And wokeism and Marxism are interchangeable terms. And part of my book, Mark, was largely inspired by your masterpiece, American Marxism. And I felt the need to try to say that we need a counter-revolution to this Marxist movement. Now, when I use the word revolution, some people in the conservative movement, they say, I don't like that term. And understandably, they think about the French Revolution or the Russian Revolution. But we forget about...
Can you believe we lost this guy? Can you, Rich? Go ahead.
We need a revolution back to our roots, a revolution that puts the people at the forefront and at the center. And one of the chapters that I really want to isolate is one that I think your audience will appreciate, Curing Red State Laziness. The amount of power that we have in the red states in this country and the lack of action is remarkable. For example, let's take the state of Oklahoma. Oklahoma has 77 counties. Donald Trump won every single county in 2016, every single county in 2020. State University of Oklahoma have some of the worst transgender, critical race theory, diversity, equity, inclusion, taxpayer-funded programs in the country. So it's one thing to complain about wokeism, but why are our red states subsidizing it? So we need to now say, wait a second, in the reddest state of the red part of this country, we're not able to do what Ron DeSantis did in Florida, which is completely defund these universities, and especially the CRT and DEI elements of it. And when you understand the woke or the Marxists, they do not give an inch. Wokeism is predatory. It is bureaucratic. Wokeism is also easily defeated if you don't play their game. Their game is about a means of controlling you by weaponizing name-calling. You're a racist, you're a sexist, you're a misogynist, you're a homophobe. Do not accept the terms of their debate. Dismiss it. Double down, triple down. And so what we articulate in this book, and Mark, you've played a huge role in my intellectual formation for years, is that we, the people, deserve a true opposition party in this country. That for far too long, we have had the Vichy French Republicans, and excuse the graphic nature of that, but it's true. We're the ruling class Republicans who do not represent their voters, and it is time for a revolutionary movement first within the Republican Party and then within the country to counter this Leviathan that is currently enveloping the West.
Charlie Kirk was 30. Last year, obviously, he's 31. Soon to be 32. Listen to this man. Listen to this just fantastic human being. You know, you always have little disagreements with your spouse and so forth and so on. That's irrelevant. That doesn't matter. Funny thing about Charlie is, you could discuss those things. This guy did not have a angry bone in his body. He didn't need to go to college. He quit college, and you can see why. All this stuff he knew, he's thanking me for helping. It's not me, it's him. He was always thanking me. I said, Charlie, no, it's you. Charlie read the great ancient philosophers, the modern philosophers. He read history. He knew. He could go toe-to-toe with anybody. Anybody. He was always trying to pursue the truth, an objective understanding of things. And he'd be the first to tell you, sometimes he got it right, sometimes he got it wrong. But that's what he was. He's the epitome of free speech, the epitome of curiosity, and just a lovely human being. It's going to be deeply, deeply missed. Think of all the decades that he won't be here to contribute. And think of his wife, Erica, and his 2 baby girls. His wife, Erica, and 2 baby girls. I'm not online today reading comments. I don't want to read the comments. There's too many sickos out there. But I read President Trump's comments and some of the others. President Trump is a very compassionate human being. That's why he's trying to make our city safe, whatever it takes. National Guard, ICE. Wants to bring back the death penalty in many parts of the country that don't have it. He wants to protect people. Obviously, I have not talked to the president or anybody else. People are grieving. But I assure you, this one upsets him. Last December, Christmas time, when we were at the President's Club, which I don't go to often, but Charlie sitting there and Judge Janine and the President, and many others, including my daughter across the way. Music was playing. I will never forget this. Never. What a good time he was having. Never forget it. Be right back. This segment of the podcast is exclusively sponsored by Pure Talk. Pure Talk offers great coverage and can save your family money on your wireless bill every single month. Go to puretalk.com to find the plan that's right for you. Thank you again for listening, and thank you so much for this sponsorship, Pure Talk.
He's here. He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
It's a very dark and grave day. The passing of Charlie Kirk to an assassin's bullet. Unthinkable, really. On the heels of assassination attempts, our president, Donald Trump. All efforts to shoot at the heart of this republic and silence certain individuals have certain viewpoints. Charlie was a whirling dervish with the most pleasant personality imaginable. Here I am interviewing him about his book, and he can't stop praising me. That's the way he was, and I'm sure not just with me. And so this show is in memory of and in honor of Charlie Kirk. And I want you to hear from him as we go through this interview on this program a little over a year ago. Cut 2, go. I want people to understand that Charlie gets into the red state laziness. These are the subchapters. That conservatives and Republicans seem to have this cult of defeat. They play the game, and then we walk away and say, we're not going to play that game. And he says, no, get into that game and beat them at their own game. In other words, again, he's laying out a strategy. Don't be intimidated by them. If they call you names, who cares? Confront them, and we don't mean in their face. We mean challenge them. Yeah. And you also talk about changing the country. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, and that's what's changing the country is actually one of my favorite parts of the book. And because we start with changing your attitude and then changing the country. And that's where we get into the details. And that's where the kind of nerd in me loved doing this research. I called hundreds of think tank experts and public policy experts that I've known throughout the years. And I said, what are your best ideas that you have that are not currently being acted upon in D.C.? What are the best ideas to stop the deep state, the administrative state? What are the best executive orders that people don't know about? What are the best pieces of legislation that should be recommended? So, for example, we go into detail of the executive orders that we hope Donald Trump signs on day one. For example, reviving Executive Order 13950, which along with Schedule F, which allows us to terminate federal employees at will, which Donald Trump needs to do on day one. He's promised to do it because we need to shrink the size of the federal government. The federal government is the largest institution in the history of the world, a $6 trillion beast that is now being turned against the American people. It is a regime object against the everyday American. So Executive Order 13950 was President Trump's decree banning aggressive critical race theory infused and sensitivity training within the federal government, within any companies or any subsidiaries receiving federal contracts. So, for example, Boeing would no longer be able to receive federal contracts or money if they do DEI or CRT or affirmative action type hiring practices. Did you know that affirmative action was never passed by Congress? That affirmative action was actually done by an executive order? Yep, that isn't amazing. That the executive order
I'm
done back
guessing it was
in
Nixon.
Johnson. It was actually,
okay.
Yeah, it was back in Johnson-Nixon. Yeah, it was one that parlayed from the other. But no one has had the spine to say affirmative action is a bad idea. We now have a mandate, thanks to the Trump Supreme Court, to say, President Trump, day one, you gave us the Supreme Court justices. They said affirmative action hiring practices are unconstitutional in the colleges. Get rid of all affirmative action in the federal hiring bureaucracies. That alone, Mark, would be a giant leap forward in dismantling this woke beast that has had so much control over our life. Another part of this that we talk about is giving the land back to the states and the people. This is a little wonky, but I know we're on national radio right now in Arizona and Nevada. This is something that is so easy. So let's say President Trump wins in November, God willing, and we're working hard at that. Day 1 or day 5 or day 30, the first month, Donald Trump should instruct the head of BLM, not Black Lives Matter, but the Bureau of Land Management, to give the land back to the states. Do you know that 80% of Nevada, 80% is controlled by BLM, the Bureau of Land Management? Give it back to the states, give it back to the people. Right. That will shrink the size of the federal Leviathan.
This is why I always want my guests, I don't have a ton of them, to have an opportunity to speak. Especially an all-star like Charlie Kirk. Especially an all-star like Charlie Kirk. Let's go to cut 3, please. Go. We're here with Charlie Kirk, a great friend. Right-Wing Revolution, How to Beat the Woke and Save the West. You can get it on Amazon.com right now. It just came out. I cannot recommend this strongly enough. You look at this chapter 15 as an example. Be a lover of all things. It's something I never really thought of. It is fantastic. It reminds me of my youth, Charlie. He says, look, Sit down and learn about history and philosophy and economics. Learn these old things. Learn literature. Read. Get off the internet. Get away from the apps for a while. He talks about also, and take care of yourself. Be a moral person. Be a healthy person. Do the things that you need to do. Lay off the really stupid things and the bad things, and create energy for yourself and live the good life and be a person of faith. And so the book moves from the horrors that are happening to our country, the lawlessness, the war on morality, the war on the family, the war on the individual, the attack on our constitutional system and our culture. And he walks through here and he talks about, look, these are things we can do in states. Look, these are things we can do on the first day if we win the presidency. I mean, this is like a very comprehensive how-to book for the individual and for the country, Charlie. I strongly encourage people to get it. Right Wing Revolution, Charlie Kirk, Amazon.com. When you were writing this book, what did you... Let me start from the beginning. Why did you decide to write this book?
Well, yeah, thank you, Mark, and that's very kind of you. I decided to write it because I felt we were coming into an election year, and there was a little bit too much of doom and despair. We were under our own weight of negative thinking, and I think we needed a little bit of a blueprint of what the individual can do. And it's more than just getting Donald Trump elected. That's obvious, okay? We know that. But I'm talking about how we can become complete and better citizens where we can challenge the administrative state and this totalitarian impulse in our country for the rest of our lives. And I've been doing this now for 12 years. I've been super blessed, Mark. We're fighting on high school campuses, college campuses. The organization is bigger than anything we could have ever imagined. We hosted President Trump twice in the last week, and we also had our Women's Summit, our Blexit event, our Chapter Leadership Summit. It's just been this remarkable movement that we've been able to grow at Turning Point. And so I feel that I have a lot to share about what we're up against and what people can do. And the reason I wrote the book is I get every day, Mark, the question, I'm sure you do too, when you get stopped in airports or at restaurants, what can I do? What can I do? What can I do? What can I do? And I've kind of just wanted to diagnose it head on. First, what we're up against, the wokeism, the heaviness of what they're doing to our society, how predatory they are, and how they are a bacterial infection on Western civilization. And then we really get into the action. And we do micro, macro in the book. The macro is what we talked about in the previous segment, which is the executive orders Trump can sign, bringing the land back to the states. That's just one of hundreds of ideas we have in the book. But then also the micro, the books you need to read, the personal habits that I think that people should start to develop. And we have a crisis right now in Mark, in the West, and there's several of them. One of them being our fertility crisis. We are below replacement levels right now in the West, where we are no longer having enough children to sustain Western civilization. And we address that head on in this book of the need to get married and have children and to elevate those things that are true and good and beautiful, because the woke or the Marxists, they are ugly. They are cruel. They are nasty. And I don't just mean aesthetically, because some of them are. I mean their ideas, their worldview. Think about it. If you are in the woke mind cult, you believe in an apocalyptic worldview. The world is going to end because of systemic racism. The world is going to end because of COVID. The world is going to end because of climate change or radical environmentalism. We need to put forward an optimistic, positive, forward-thinking agenda, and that's what we articulate in the book, Right Wing Revolution.
Oh, my God, what a loss, Rich. What a horrific loss to mankind. Cut 4, go. How do you write a book? Because, in my case, I circle the subject generally for a couple of months. Then I say the easiest way to write a book is to start to write it, which isn't so easy. And then sort of the ideas begin to develop, and then over time you move in that direction. How do you do it?
It's a great question. You'll see in this book we kind of cover a lot of subject matter because I have a lot on my mind, and it was actually I had to delete a lot of stuff, which is good. You know that in writing a book, you end up the editing process is so important, and this has gone through so many rounds of edits. I started actually, Mark, listening to my lectures and re-listening to my speeches, and I would slow down and say, "Ooh, that's a good point. I like that. I want to do a chapter on that. Because, I mean, you know, I give hundreds of speeches a year, and I've given thousands over the last decade, and we record all of them. And what a great launching off point when you want to write a book. You can listen to your own thoughts, and you can say, oh, I want to do more research on that. And so, again, the editing process is what's so important. And Sergio at Winning Team Publishing, they're so great to work with. And, you know, we start with this big idea and this big picture. And then also I try to talk to people much smarter than I am and get their opinions and talk about what they want to hear and what they want to see. And so it's a tough process. You know it, Mark. I mean, you're a legend when it comes to publishing books, some of the most popular books of the last decade. It is not easy, I'll tell you what. And it is something that is a great labor, and it's a celebratory week. It's our book launch week. It's been a bestseller in multiple categories, and we're really thankful for that. And we want to see it continue and see that momentum grow. But this is the hardest part. They say that in order to write a book or paint a painting, it takes two people. One person to do the art and one person to tell them to stop.
Mm-hmm. Incredible. Cut 5. Go ahead. I'm very excited for you. This is a fantastic book. I get tons of books all year, and I don't bring all the authors on because this isn't, you know, book notes on C-SPAN. On the other hand, if the author is compelling and the book is compelling, then it's compelling, period. And you're a compelling individual. You've done a lot in your relatively young life. You've been a fighter for freedom since you were a very young man. You formed your own organization, actually more than one. You create these fantastic conventions. You come under a lot of attack because of what you do, and you're not afraid to say what you say. And I see it all sort of crystallized in this book. This is the kind of book that you would expect a scholar to write, but it's written in plain English, if you understand what I mean, because it really, it covers one's life, not his personally, but life's goals, life's interests. It covers the culture. It covers our republic. And within the republic, it covers the central government and the states. And then he addresses each one individually. And then at the end, he ends with, hey, look, and above all else, faith. I'm a practicing Christian. I believe in my faith. For those of us who are Christians, we need to get back to our spiritual belief system. Explain that.
Yeah, and Mark, thank you for all that. That's really, it means a lot for you saying it. And we try to make it hyper-readable. You're exactly right. I believe that the West is collapsing largely because we've lost our Judeo-Christian roots. This idea that there is an ethical monotheist behind our life. Our founders believed this. They wrote it in the Declaration of Independence. The laws of nature and nature's God. They believed that many of them spoke fluent Hebrew. John Adams actually spoke fluent Hebrew. And I believe we need a spiritual revival here in the West, and that it's not good enough just for political revolution. But I think this was a better country when people took a day off of the week to rest and spend time with family. I do it, actually, Mark. My life has changed, and I can thank Dennis Prager for it, for inspiring me to do it. I turn off my phone from Friday night to Sunday morning every week to spend time with my wife and my kids. I am unreachable by the outside world, and I no longer read the news. And that's a revolutionary idea, and that's why it fits in the book. A revolutionary idea to say you turn off your smartphone to value the things that really matter and to try to rebuild your relationship with the divine and the eternal. And you mentioned a really important point as well, Mark, that I want to reiterate, which is the founding fathers, I believe it was James Madison, you could correct me on this, where he said the Constitution was written solely for a moral and religious people. It is wholly inadequate for the people of any other. It might have been John Adams. I think it was James Madison. And the reason this is a profound statement is that the republic will cease to exist if we do not prioritize a moral and religious people. And that's important. A republic form of government, a small government, can only exist if the people are not clamoring for a big government. If there is something that is bigger than government in their life, and that thing needs to be, we believe, is God, and the founders believe that. And the form and the structure of our government is now currently under debate. The left says repeatedly that we're a democracy, and we're not. We're a republic. But what they're really saying, and what we increasingly see in this country, Mark, is an oligarchy, is 7 or 8 families that run the country, and 4 or 5 companies that run the country, and a massive federal leviathan that is at war with its own people. To restore a republic, a small r Republican form of government, it's going to require the individual to take responsibility and sovereignty of their life. If we want a Republican form of government as the founders intended, we believe that the people are sovereign, but we must first act with action to believe it and to revitalize the West.
Look at his enthusiasm. Look at the wide range of knowledge. You can see why he was so popular in so many of these college campuses among so many, and why he was able to influence so many young people. Truly so. Brought an enthusiasm to it. You know, he loved life, didn't he? And then snuffed out with an assassin's bullet. I don't think Charlie could have ever dreamt, no matter how much security you had, that would occur. No way. Of all places, Utah, on a college campus, in the middle of an event with 2,000 people, on a sunny day. On a sunny day. That physical voice has been silenced. But that's the kind of voice and the kind of thinking that will live on forever. I believe so. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
When was the last time you bragged about your wireless company? Like, did you know my wireless company gave away 1,000 American flags to deserving vets and forgave $10 million in veteran debt? Did you know my wireless company raised almost $500,000 to help prevent veteran suicide? In other words, when your wireless company is Pure Talk, there's a whole lot to brag about. You can even brag about the coverage you get with Pure Talk, a 5G network that is insanely fast, dependable, and secure. And you can definitely brag about how much money you save with Pure Talk. Unlimited talk, text, plenty of data. Just $25 a month, saving the average family over $1,000 a year. It's time to switch to my favorite wireless company, Pure Talk. Go to puretalk.com/Levin and save an additional 50% off your first month. Again, puretalk.com/LEVIN. Make the switch today. Pure Talk, wireless worth bragging about. Well, it's a very short segment. When we return, we'll finish up the radio interview about a year ago with Charlie Kirk. And I want to get into another book he wrote in 2020 where I interviewed him on Life, Liberty, and Levin. And we'll get into that as well. You'll see what kind of a mind he had, which was really extraordinary, exceptional. And it's sort of a Renaissance man when you think about it. Very deep thinker, can communicate in plain English in a very compelling way. Brain moves very fast. We see people like this. You've got, Shapiro, Hammer, other people. The brain moves fast. Mine moves fast, too. My mouth just doesn't move as fast as some of them. But, Kirk, my God, look what this barbarian took from us and his beautiful family. We'll be right back. When was the last time you bragged about your wireless company? Like, did you know my wireless company gave away 1,000 American flags to deserving vets and forgave $10 million in veteran debt? Did you know my wireless company raised almost $500,000 to help prevent veteran suicide? In other words, when your wireless company is Pure Talk, there's a whole lot to brag about. You can even brag about the coverage you get with Pure Talk, a 5G network that is insanely fast, dependable, and secure. And you can definitely brag about how much money you save with Pure Talk. Unlimited talk, text, plenty of data. Just $25 a month, saving the average family over $1,000 a year. It's time to switch to my favorite wireless company, Pure Talk. Go to puretalk.com/Levin and save an additional 50% off your first month. Again, puretalk.com/LEVIN. Make the switch today. Pure Talk, wireless worth bragging about. And then the last clip from the radio interview about a year ago with Charlie Kirk. Cut 6, go. Folks, I think you'll really be fascinated by this book, and I actually think you're going to be inspired by this book, Right-Wing Revolution, How to Beat the Woke and Save the West. You go to Amazon.com right now. They'll deliver it to your door tomorrow. You've got a great publishing group there, Winning Team Publishing, and our buddy Sergio Gore, who's a dear friend of both of ours, as you're a dear friend of mine and my wife. Folks, again, I want to encourage you to grab a copy of this book. And you know what else? A lot of books are depressing. This book is not depressing. You're able to go through these depressing issues and say, hey, look, don't whine about it. Don't complain about it. Don't sulk about it. Here's some ideas on what we need to do about it. And so it's not a Debbie Downer book. It's a book that invigorates and inspires. Is that also part of the purpose of this book?
No, that's right. And Mark, I want to celebrate one part. Thank you for mentioning it. It's so important. There is so much negativity in the conservative movement. Thanks to your work for decades, Mark, and the work of your patriots and your audience, we're in a better position when it comes to the Second Amendment than we were 20 years ago. We're in a better position when it comes to private property rights than we were 20 years ago when it comes to the federal bench. The Supreme Court is better than it was 10 years ago. We celebrate how we've actually won some things as a conservative movement. And how did we get there? What can we learn from it? Well, and also we're in a better position in the fight for life. If you think about the fight for life, the fight for the Second Amendment, you think about the idea of the federal judiciary. It was long-term planning, never surrendering, never allowing the left to determine the terms of the debate, consolidating people and patriots of different backgrounds and different areas of the country and having determined action. If you would have said 10 years ago that Roe versus Wade would be repealed, people would look at you funny. If you would have said, 15 years ago that you would have open carry reciprocity in almost every state across the country, and we'd have the Heller decision, they'd say, no way. In the late 90s, it looked like the Second Amendment was getting phased out. The Second Amendment is now more robust than any time in recent memory. And so it's an optimistic, forward-thinking book where we celebrate so many of our wins, and we look forward of the country that we can renew. Look, we are a civilization in decline, and you know that, Mark. It's terrible to witness. And we kind of need to shake us up a little bit and say, we're still a great country. We have liquid gold beneath our feet and natural gas and oil reserves. We have 330 million people. There are more decent than indecent people in this country. Every one of our problems, and we say this in the book, is self-inflicted. Nobody is making this happen to us. Decline is a choice. An open border is a choice. Inflation is a choice. Debt is a choice. And so we need to choose to no longer do those things. We believe a big part of that choice is getting Donald Trump back into the Oval Office, but it needs to be a complete, nationwide, citizen-first revival and revitalization. I believe our best days can be ahead. And I'm not just giving that cliche Mourning in America speech that so many of these rhino politicians give. I believe truly, and I've traveled this country, I've been in the grassroots, I know the people. They are begging for that kind of revival. We put forward what we believe is the best path for that kind of a blueprint, because we have so much to be thankful for. This is still a great country, the greatest in the world. We need to change the attitude, change the mindset, because everything that is happening right now is a series of choices with dire and heavy consequences. And I'm going to continue to bet on the American people. I really will. I think the combined wisdom of the American people far supersedes the arrogance and the mistakes of America's ruling class. And I think November will be the first chapter in that national revival.
Well, he was right. And extraordinary, isn't he? Extraordinary. I feel like I can text him right now, Mr. Producer. Extraordinary. And yet, about 4 years earlier, he had a different book. His book, The MAGA Doctrine. The Only Ideas That Will Win the Future. Another fascinating interview because of him. Let's start that now as well. March 2020, I'm interviewing Charlie on Life, Liberty, and Levin. Cut 7, go. You're known to our audience, Turning Point USA, but I wanted to have you here because this Bernie Sanders movement, we're told it's a youth movement. We're told the Republicans might as well resign to the fact that the youth are going to go Democrat, worse, socialist. And I want to explore this with you. I think this is a very, very important topic. And you've also written a magnificent book, The MAGA Doctrine, the only ideas that will win the future. And really, it relates to the topic. So let's jump in here. First of all, I have said that conservatives better stop celebrating what the Democrats are going through with Bernie Sanders. The Democrat Party is the biggest political party in the country. The fact that there are a lot of people voting for a Marxist, they can call him a democratic socialist all they want. I know what he is. He knows I know what he is. He won't come and sit in that chair where you're sitting right now, so he and I can discuss it. This is very troubling to me, and I don't think we should be rooting for Bernie Sanders to be the nominee of the Democrat Party. Am I wrong?
You're totally correct. In fact, when I go to conservative groups across the country and I say, Bernie Sanders can be president of the United States, I'm usually met with people scoffing and dismissing it. No, it can happen. I visit college campuses more so than almost anyone on the conservative circuit. Turning Point USA, we're on 2,000 high school and college campuses across the country. I'm getting daily, if not hourly, intel reports of exactly what's happening on the ground. And I can tell you that there is a base of supporters that can grow, rather significantly ahead of the election that Bernie Sanders can capitalize on. And look, I for one, don't want to go the way of the Democrats in 2016 and be just so dismissive of the other party nominee and say that person can't be president. So we don't know if Bernie Sanders is going to be the nominee or not. But we do know that his rise is fueled by a broken culture, and a culture that we as conservatives have not engaged in enough, especially on college campuses. The university system in particular, and the thousands of professors that occupy mostly the history department and the humanities department, have been teaching the next generation to hate our country. And they have not been teaching them American history properly, if not at all. They have not been teaching them the founding of our country. And when you're not thankful for something, Mark, why would you want to conserve that something? If you're not thankful for our country, of course you would want to support a revolution to overtake it. And it's rooted in no understanding of economics, no understanding of exactly what the idea of free actually means. And so what I do every single day is to try to bring the ideas of freedom and liberty and the Constitution to these college campuses. And a little point of optimism on it, though, there's an extraordinary amount of young people that are waiting for this message to be heard, because they have been silenced by the intelligentsia, if you will, on college campuses that believe that there should only be one set of ideas on these university campuses.
All right, let us go to, it's clip number 8, Mr. Producer. Go ahead. So you seem to be saying, Charlie Kirk, that Bernie Sanders is the end result of what's been going on for decades in government schools, in colleges and universities, with pretty much a monopoly of ideology, a monopoly of faculty ideologues, and that it's starting to have consequences, serious consequences. And you see Republicans, and I see some who are in broadcast, and they're actually giddy. Now, we don't know if Bernie Sanders will be the nominee, but the fact that we don't know, to me, is problematic. I posted something when I was in Israel, and I said, my fellow conservatives, what are you cheering about?
I totally agree with you.
And not only that, he has moved the Democrat Party, and so have others. AOC, Tlaib, Omar, really fringe characters. Mm-hmm. They've moved the center of the Democrat Party. They've moved the center of the political debate. And this is something we have to battle and be aware of, is it not?
Look, we have to understand that whatever happens on college campuses will soon happen in the halls of Congress. And we should not be cheering on the rise of a Marxist in our country in any form, shape whatsoever. We defeated communism when the Berlin Wall fell down. But then we fell asleep at the wheel, and we've allowed the same Marxist ideas to infiltrate the minds of our most prized possession in our country, which is our young people. And so you're exactly right, Mark, when you say that we should not be celebrating the rise of a Marxist. And you're all of a sudden seeing ideas that otherwise would have been considered radical in the Democrat Party now become mainstream. And so I get people ask me all the time, well, what can we do about this? What can I do about the rise of socialism in our country? And you hit the nail on the head. It's government-run schools that are the primary culprit for why this has happened. Bernie Sanders is just a byproduct of a broken culture. He's exploiting a generation that has been trained to be victims. He's exploiting a generation and a populace that wants to take other people's money away. And it's very easy to be generous with other people's money. In fact, what you and I have to communicate to the American people, liberty and freedom, is actually a harder sell, if you will. It's harder to tell people to work harder or wake up earlier or metaphorically pull yourself up by the bootstraps. What Bernie Sanders is talking about is student loan forgiveness, debt cancellation, universal and free healthcare.
You never have to get out of bed.
That's right. And it's the work less, get more free stuff, mediocre agenda of the Democrat Party. And make no mistake, the socialist movement in this country is not going away if we defeat it at the ballot box in November. We have to defeat it. No matter who the nominee is, they're going to have 40 to 50% of that party that are socialists. The question I always ask people is, do you think America is going to be more or less socialist in 10 years? And the only correct answer to that question is what's happening in culture. What are our students reading? Are they reading the Founding Fathers? Do they understand American history? Are they appreciative of this gift that we've been given from God? And the answer is more times than often, no. And that's why we operate with a sense of urgency that we do at Turning Point USA, because we have been winning politically as conservatives over the last 10 or 15 years, but we've been losing tragically culturally.
What a gift from God we've lost today. This remarkable young man, Charlie Kirk. We'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
When was the last time you bragged about your wireless company? Like, did you know my wireless company gave away 1,000 American flags to deserving vets and forgave $10 million in veteran debt? Did you know my wireless company raised almost $500,000 to help prevent veteran suicide? In other words, when your wireless company is Pure Talk, there's a whole lot to brag about. You can even brag about the coverage you get with Pure Talk, a 5G network that is insanely fast, dependable, and secure. And you can definitely brag about how much money you save with Pure Talk. Unlimited talk, text, plenty of data. Just $25 a month, saving the average family over $1,000 a year. It's time to switch to my favorite wireless company, Pure Talk. Go to puretalk.com/Levin and save an additional 50% off your first month. Again, puretalk.com/LEVIN. Make the switch today. Pure Talk, wireless worth bragging about. This is such a horrendous night following a horrendous day. Family members, friends, people who knew Charlie, people who don't, all are having the same reaction. They're sick to their stomach. That's what they're saying. And I'm sick to my stomach, too. You're sick to your stomach. You're emotionally off balance. I mean, this one, look, murder is horrendous, absolutely horrendous, but this one has a different feel to it, doesn't it, Rich? It just does. It just does. Not because Charlie was famous. Some people knew him, some people didn't. But because he was a ball of energy, he's living life to its fullest. He wanted everybody else to do the same thing. He could preach on subjects from faith, economics to philosophy. That's why he didn't go to college. He was too smart for the professors. That's why. And here's what I'm going to do. I have this 2 or 3 more clips of him I want to play. I want you to hear them. And then we'll go to the phones, because they've been full from the moment we began this program. People are upset. They want to speak. You want to speak. And I want to hear from you. I've decided this Saturday's Life, Liberty, and Levin will be focusing on my interview with Charlie Kirk. So you'll hear more of the interview. You'll get to see us sit across from each other. It was the interview I did on Life, Liberty, and Levin, March 2020, when COVID was breaking out. And we did it in a special studio in Washington, D.C. that I think I used 3 times. But it was very important to me that we go to Washington, D.C., that I use the studio, and that I interview Charlie, and thank God I did. Thank God I did. And Sunday, what I have planned for you, I had it planned for Saturday, but I'm going to move it to Sunday, is another 1-hour interview with a gentleman by the name of Youssef, whose father was one of the founders of Hamas. He's never had a TV interview for an hour, and we're gonna change that. We want to hear from him. But Saturday, Life, Liberty, and Levin will be dedicated to Charlie Kirk. And the discussion of his book. And the reason it's important to me, and I'm sure to you, is the ease and flexibility with which he moves from subject to subject, category to category. Great thinker. A real cultural mover. Real cultural mover. We'll be right back.
He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Hello, America. Mark Levin here. Our number is 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. I'd like to do a little more, then we're going to go to your calls. I know you're very, very upset, and I understand that you want to speak, and I want you to speak. I think we're at cut number 9, Mr. Producer, March 2020. I guess Charlie was 26 years old, Rich, 26 years old, with his book, The MAGA Doctrine. He loved Donald Trump, loved him. And I think it's fair to say, and the president said it himself, he loved Charlie Kirk. Cut 9, go.
And you look at this progressive movement, which is really the child of Marxism, Hegelism, Rousseauism, pushed over 100 years ago.
And by the way, Charlie knew everything I was talking about. He knew about every one of them. Go ahead.
Likes of Woodrow Wilson and John Dewey, Theodore Roosevelt, and others. You can see it has devoured one institution after another. The media. Mm-hmm. The media work from the perspective of the left, as social activists, as progressives. You see it every day. You see it on their Sunday shows. You look at Hollywood, same thing. But our public schools, that's where the targeting was taken. Don't teach math without teaching it in a social setting. Don't teach chemistry without teaching it in a social setting, a social engineering setting. And it has an impact on society at some point. As the progressive movement, the radical progressive movement, where there was some resistance in the Democrat Party, you had some moderates, some so-called centrists. Has it devoured that party now?
I hope not. I mean, actually, for the good of the country, we should want at least moderate Democrats to have a voice. And there's nothing good for the future of our republic, this gift that we've been given, to have the opposition party go full Rousseauian Marxist. I'm so glad you mentioned Rousseau, because he was the gateway to Karl Marx. And Plato is really the gateway to Rousseau. And what the big conversation is...
You're well read, the Republic and so forth. Good.
Thank you. And Aristotle and Plato, who, of course, was the age-old student and teacher dynamic. Of course, Socrates taught Plato, Plato taught Aristotle. But Aristotle disagreed with Plato on one fundamental thing. He disagreed on a lot, which is private property a good thing or a bad thing? Plato said bad thing, get rid of private property. Plato also argued against the nuclear family. Aristotle said, no, I think private property serves a role. I think that if you try to take people's stuff away, all of a sudden you're going to take away their meaning and their ability to pass on wealth and ideas to the next generation. This divide between Aristotle and Plato is playing out today in our politics. And we have to understand that Bernie Sanders does not believe private property is a right. And we kind of skid away from this as conservatives. We don't mention that in the original drafts of some of our founding documents. It was life, liberty, and private property. And you informed me this at a young age by listening to your radio show. Now, why is that important? Well, if you don't believe that being able to own private property is a right, well, then of course we can take away 1/6 of the American economy and healthcare. If you don't believe private property is a right, then you actually don't own your own speech.
This is a great point. And, Madison did an entire essay on private property, how it's more than physical and material. Private property is what's in your head.
Bingo.
Private property is what you have to say. Private property is crucial. And the reason why the left rejects private property is it's one of the barriers against their agenda, against their ideology. And that's why they attack it constantly. They don't care about billionaires because they're really attacking the so-called middle class.
That's exactly right.
It's the middle class whose wealth is redistributed, who is controlled with their health care and all the rest of it. They can talk about billionaires all they want.
That's right. Well, and going back to Rousseau, to kind of complete the point, he was one of the most amazing hypocrites in philosophical history. He was someone that argued that private property was the worst thing ever, yet he lived like a plutocrat and as essentially part of the 1%. And so to your point, you have people in the so-called ruling class that are arguing for Marxism. What they're really arguing for is more power and control for themselves. They actually don't want to live under the very proposals that they are offering to the populace or offering to the people and offering to the citizenry. And so what I think is so instrumental here, though, is if the left had their way, what would they allow in terms of private property? Because they would take our guns away. They would take our speech away. They would take our right to privacy away in the Fourth Amendment. And so this is the fundamental disagreement right now, where if any journalist had an ounce of integrity, they would look Senator Sanders in the eye and they'd say, do you believe private property is a right? And he'd probably try to dance away from it, but eventually he would say no. And that's the core debate that's happening right now.
And what is private property? Private property is the manifestation of your physical and intellectual labor.
Yes.
You get up in the morning, most of us, you work, and you go to bed at night. You get up in the morning, you do it over and over again. Your existence on the planet as a human being is linked to what you create, to what you develop. That is the manifestation of your liberty, of your human being. So if somebody steps in and says, you know what, you don't have the right to this, and we're going to redistribute that, and so forth and so on, then what they're saying is, I'm going to attack your individualism and your liberty, no?
That's exactly right. And John Locke taught us this. And John Locke was one of the philosophical inspirations of the American founding. And he moved us forward hundreds of years philosophically and brought us right up to the precipice of the American Revolution, where he had the correct and brilliant revelation that everything you think and everything that you believe and everything you invest in as a human being is your own property. And the left actually hijacks this language against us. They use it incorrectly when talking about life and talking about abortion. They say, well, it's your body, your choice. Well, that's a deeper discussion for a different time. However, what they're trying to say, they're trying to play on the tendency of young people to want to be free. They're arguing that human beings should have sovereignty over their own choices. That's really what they're getting at, which is actually a Lockean natural rights argument for governance, that our rights come from God, not from government. Bernie Sanders doesn't believe rights come from God. I don't even know if he believes in God. And that's an also very important point, which is the left, as it's becoming more and more Marxist, it's increasingly become more secular.
Mm-hmm. And he had a few choice words for Tim Kaine the other day, too. And then finally, then we'll take a short break and get to you folks. Let's see. It wasn't that long ago, a couple months ago, I played Charlie Kirk's epic defense of the State of Israel. Epic. Charlie came under attack by the Islamists. I defended him. Some called him an anti-Semite. I never called him an anti-Semite. I know anti-Semites. Charlie was never one of them. And I came to his defense over that, too. Prime Minister of Israel, Netanyahu, put out a beautiful statement a few hours back celebrating Charlie's life as an American patriot, support of Israel, and said they had talked about him making a visit to the Prime Minister in 2 weeks. That's all posted. President of the United States hasn't said a word since the news came out that Charlie was shot. I mean verbally, has he, Mr. Producer? I suspect he's extremely upset. As we all are. The whole country is, those of us who are patriots. But anyway, this is the way it went. June 2025, Charlie reacts, and it's an epic defense of the state of Israel and Christianity. Cut 10, go.
You know, I first heard of Charlie Kirk many years ago, actually, when he was an organizer on college campuses, really fighting back, really pushing back against the dominant radical left ideology. And he's a very courageous gentleman. I like him a lot. We don't always agree on everything. Look, nobody always agrees on everything. Ask my wife. She'll tell you the same thing. But we still love each other, and he's still fantastic. So, that said, we can get into very exciting differences of opinion, and that's the nature of America. That's a good thing. And then we can still be buddies, and we are. But my wife sent me a clip of Charlie that I hadn't seen. Charlie has always been a big support, obviously, of the United States, but always a big supporter of Israel. Even though his foreign policy ideas, to me, there are little areas that he and I can disagree in. But his heart is in the right place, and his brain is in the right place, too. I want you to listen to this because he's at this event, and he's being challenged about Israel's existence, Israel's history, because the Palestinians have a propaganda campaign where they want you to believe that they were the first in the Holy Land, and the Jews are the interlopers. They're not the indigenous peoples. And Abbas, who is a terrorist, who was the mastermind behind the 1972 Munich slaughter of the Israeli Olympians, he's pushing out the lies that actually the Jews first formed this faith in Yemen. Yemen. It's just so stupid, but they don't care. But I want you to listen to what Charlie said, because when you go to Israel, you touch the places. You go to the burial site of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. It's called Hebron. You see where the tribes of Israel came together and formed the Jewish faith. In Shiloh, where they had their tabernacle, very small location and so forth. The Palestinians say that's our country. You go through the city of David. The city of David really is right there on the outskirts and then into the center of the city of Jerusalem. It is the city of Jerusalem. In other words, it predates it. That's how old this is. And the city of David was created by King David and King Solomon. And you go through there and you touch the walls and you see the steps, and now they have the pool that millions and millions of people went to this special pool, including Jesus, by the way. Just incredible. And so Charlie references that, and he knows his Bible, and he's not very happy with this constant yammering and yelling from the audience about the Jews, they're in our homeland and so forth. It's the indigenous homeland of the Jews. So here's Charlie Kirk about a month ago. Go.
What religion was Jesus? What did he believe? Well, obviously he's Jew. Where was Jesus born? Why does that matter? Born in Bethlehem. Okay. And he was raised in Nazareth, and he walked on the water in Capernaum. What country are those places in right now? What does it matter? It does matter. You know why? Because when I went to Israel, I came in contact with the living God that walked on water and rose Lazarus from the dead. When I went to Israel, I saw the Bible come to life. When I went to Israel, I I saw Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and Sarah, Rebecca, and Leah in the Hall of the Patriarchs. When I went to Israel, what I read as Bible stories popped open, and I said, this is the Word of God. This is real. These are not fairy tales or fables or things that we tell our kids. When I went to Israel, I was able to cry where Jesus cried, where he was betrayed by Judas and arrested, where he rose from the dead and gives us eternal life. I am not an apologist for Israel, but I reject wholeheartedly this narrative. Christians who turn their back on Israel, it says in Genesis and Romans and 1 Thessalonians, Paul said you will bless the Jews. If you bless Israel, you will be blessed. If you scorn Israel, you will be scorned. There is a diabolical satanic agenda every single day to try and delegitimize the scriptures. And I will defend the Holy Land, the place that let me see where my Lord and Savior lived, and I will not apologize for that.
That's pretty heavy. So I want to salute Charlie for that. And we're back live. God, what an awful day. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Matthew Dowd is a evil monster. Spends his life on MSNBC spewing poison against the president, but now he's stepped over the line. And he should be fired. Others have said it, and I want to join that sentiment. Here in part is what he said. Cut 11, go.
We don't know any of the full details of this. We don't know if this was a supporter shooting their gun off in celebration, or so we have no idea about this. But following up on what was just said, he's been one of the most divisive, especially divisive younger figures in this, who is constantly sort of pushing this sort of hate speech or sort of aimed at certain groups. And I always go back to hateful thoughts lead to hateful words, which then lead to hateful actions.
Oh, assassinations? You see, you punk. I don't mean to be rude, but I'm glad I wasn't in the same room with this guy. Seriously. Just another day over at MSNBC with political flim-flam. If you're Trump, you're Charlie Kirk, or you're Rush Limbaugh, or any of these, you deserve it. Pretty much you deserve it, because you're full of hate. These media conglomerates have a responsibility to clean house when they come up against pieces of crap like this guy. They have a responsibility. MSNBC. During our breaking news coverage of the shooting of Charlie Kirk, Matthew Dowd made comments that were inappropriate, insensitive, and unacceptable, said Cutler, Rebecca Cutler, MSNBC president, in a statement. We apologize for his statements, as has he. There's no place for violence in American political or otherwise. Okay, fire his ass. And he's not alone. Here's Katie Tur on MSNBC. Cut 12, go.
Charlie Kirk is a divisive figure, polarizing, lightning rod, whatever term you want to use. Why?
Well, he's one of MAGA's most prominent voices online.
Cut 13, go.
As we were just talking about a moment ago with Alan, after one of the Doge employees was allegedly attacked in Washington, D.C.
What do you mean allegedly attacked? He was beaten to a pulp almost within an inch of his life. Go ahead.
As a justification to send in federal troops into Washington, D.C. to get things under control, the carjacking situation, he used that. And I know it's hard to predict the future, Mark, but you can imagine the administration using this as a justification for something.
I must admit, I'm at a loss to guess as to what happens next.
I must admit that Kerr should go too. Katie Turd should go too. That Trump's going to use this as a justification to do something else. I'm at a loss to know what it is. I mean, ladies and gentlemen, are these human beings with hearts and souls? Are they? it's really unbelievable to me that Comcast, that owns MSNBC, well, I guess it sold it to somebody, who knows, but that this is allowed to take place like this. It really is appalling. I mean, you even have Democrat Party leaders for at least one day put aside this sort of stuff and have made actually very responsible statements. But listen to this. This is MSNBC. We'll be right back with your calls. All right. Let's take some calls, folks. Let's see here. I'll just go from the top down, okay? Len in Mineral Well, Texas, XM Satellite. Len, go right ahead, please.
Yes, sir, Mark. Thanks for taking my call.
Yeah.
I'm an old infantryman. I never served in combat. I was a Cold Warrior. But when I heard about Charlie Kirk today, I cried. It broke my heart.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it really did. Charlie was a great guy, man. And it just broke my heart, man.
I think really everybody who's heard about this, almost everybody, who's not, an ideologue on the left or something like that, is very, very upset. Very upset. And I get what you're feeling completely. I really do.
I'm so mad I can't see straight.
That's where I am now. That's where I am so pissed off. And this guy's still on the loose. They better find this guy. It's too bad it's not Texas or Florida. But Utah's pretty tough too. But they better find this guy because let's hope he's not running around the countryside for the next 3 months. All right, Len, thank you, my friend. Let's go to Al, Munster, Indiana, on the Mark Levin app. Al, go right ahead, please. Is Al there or not? Let's move on. Kathleen, Long Island, New York, the great WABC. Go right ahead, please.
Hey, Mark. Thanks for letting us call in and express our feelings about this horrible day. And I'm trying. It's just, my God, this is absolutely horrendous. I'm angry. I'm hurt. I have mixed emotions. And tomorrow's 9/11, and this is just really bad. And I just wanted to thank you. This show was absolutely beautiful, and I know you didn't prep for it. I'm sure your plans changed with the show. And
well, we prepped. We had to pull the clips together, but other than that, I was just going to play them and talk about them because what else could I do? I mean, I wanted you all to hear what he had to say from his own voice, his own mind.
Yeah, and I listened to that show live, the one that you played about his book. But I just want you to know there's only two people that reach me 100% when it comes to politics and life and religion, and it's you, and it was, I hate saying his name in the past, but it was Charlie Kirk. And I had this envision that
turn it up a little, Rich.
You retire. I had this envision or vision, whatever, that when you would retire, he would take over for you because he reminded me so much of you.
Yeah. Well, he had a big radio show on Salem, and not every year, but most years they have an event in KRLA outside of Los Angeles, and we would go. And two of the guys that sat on the panel won't be sitting on the panel anymore. One of them is Dennis Prager at a horrendous accident, and Charlie Kirk, who's been murdered.
31-year-old guy with a family and parents. I can't even imagine, if that was my sister, my brother, or anybody. It's just evil. It's just pure evil. There's no mental illness here. It's just pure hatred and evil. It's horrible.
All right, my friend, you're exactly right. Let's go to Fred in Detroit, Michigan, XM Satellite. Go right ahead, please.
Yeah, hi, Mark. First things first, my deepest condolences to
the Kirk family. That's one thing for sure. And the other thing I have to say about Charlie, there are a couple of things I have to say about Charlie. One thing for sure, as an Orthodox Jewish boy, I have to say that his support for Israel was phenomenal. I watched a lot of his clips on how he defeated those Palestinian students, his pro-Hamas students. It was crazy.
But this is why it's important to remember that Charlie was not thrown in with this cabal and so forth. Charlie was of two minds on the attack on the Iranian nuclear sites. And he was struggling with it, and he and I talked about it, and we texted a bit offline. But when it comes to Israel, the Holy Land, there's no bigger defender. The Prime Minister of Israel knew that. That's why he put out a statement today and said that he'd invited Charlie to actually meet him in 2 weeks, but obviously that's not going to happen.
Yeah. And the other thing I have to say about Charlie, like one thing you can definitely learn...
Talk a little louder, right into the mouthpiece.
Yeah, one thing for sure I can learn out of Charlie, definitely as a person, and how to speak to future people whenever going into such situations about debates. Charlie always listened to the other side. He let the person talk. That is one thing for sure, and I learned that from Charlie, and he always had a clear answer right away. He let the person talk. He let the person say what they need to say, and from there he would figure out how to respond. And he let them say full sentences, and the other side would not let them sometimes. And I do.
Well, you're right, my friend.
I'm proud. Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
Fred. Appreciate you. Let's go to our friend Don, dear friend of mine and the family, who's been with us a long time in Lake Ronkonkoma, New York. Don, how are you?
Well, I'm as equally as saddened and numb as you are, and the loss is coming over. You know, your voice is loud and clear. I got the horrible news that I had a late lunch with my wife and friends, and when I heard about the shooting, I just wanted to come home and immediately pray, and then later I heard our friend Sean Hannity announce his death, and I was upset beyond words. I have watched over and over his social media debates, and Charlie was always respectful to his challengers. And I was, that's something that always stuck with me, you know, and he would have sometimes the most vile, cruel people screaming and cursing at him, and he still smiled and got his point across. And I'm afraid, Mark, that this tragic loss is going to be with us for a long time, my friend, because the way it happened.
You're 100% right. Thank you, Don. You know, we have a buddy, Josh Hammer, and he went to a Turning Point event, I don't know, a couple months ago maybe, and he was debating this comedian, Dave Smith, who is an anti-Semite, in my humble opinion anyway. Very vile. He's on Rogan's show a lot. And he told me Charlie was very fair. He felt that there should be debate, and Josh felt that the debate was very, very worthwhile. And so there's that sort of thing that Charlie used to do. Yep. Let's see. I need to pull up another call list here. Let's see. Before we do, I'm dealing with 5 things at once here, and I apologize. I've been asked to go on a special Fox show, Hannity, 9 to 11. I said okay. I wouldn't normally go, but I just feel an obligation, certainly, to speak about our buddy Charlie. Everybody's doing it because everybody feels this way. Everybody feels this way. Not an elected official, not some kind of government official, didn't serve in the military. And yet, as I said earlier, this is different. The political assassination, the execution, listen to these words, of a young man that had his whole life ahead of him, that had a beautiful young family, a wife and 2 little baby girls, who enjoyed life, lived every moment of it. He didn't hurt anybody. He didn't attack physically anybody. This is a young man, a red-blooded American, who used the blessings of this society, of this country, to try and save it, to save the republic. And he went where very few people go and almost nobody's successful, in our high schools and college campuses. Hostile territory with the various front groups, faculty, administrators. And Charlie was a threat because of his intelligence, because of his strategizing. You know, we've had people on this program who will say correctly, he says, they're black conservatives, and they say, look, Republicans don't come into our communities. They don't ask for our votes. Charlie went into communities and took on professors, assistant professors, associate professors, grad students, left-wing organization leaders, and he allowed them to speak, and he unraveled their arguments. It's a young man again who dropped out of college after a couple of weeks, like Rush did. I did something a little differently. I rushed through it because I didn't want to stay there. But they did it their way, and look at these guys. And I know Charlie really admired Rush, and Rush really admired Charlie. And, of course, I admire both of them. It's really, let's see here. Where am I, Rich? Okay. We'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
See if we can slip a few more calls in here. Where did I leave off, Mr. Producer? All right, just now? Okay, let me grab this, folks. Sorry. A lot of people want to get in. Let's go to Doc, Warminster, Pennsylvania, XM Satellite. Go ahead, Doc.
Hey, Mark. Thanks for taking my call. And
yes, sir.
We lost a great patriot today. Prayers to him and his Charlie's wife and beautiful kids. It's gut wrenching to see these pictures on TV with his wife and two children. And ever since Clueless Joe declared white supremacy is the greatest threat to America, in 4 years now, we haven't seen one sign of it.
I'm not really into this, to be honest with you. This isn't where we're going. Not interested in that. Is there a new caller here, Rich, or not? They all look like people we've already dealt with here. And those... Okay, Okay, now I have the list. Sorry. Let's go to Dustin, Fort Myers, Florida, XM Satellite. Go right ahead, please.
Mark, as I said to Mr. Call Screener, I'm going to try and do this without crying, but today is a horrible day, not only for our country, obviously for the Kirk family and so many of you that I know that were personally friends with him. And, you mentioned Rush. Obviously, every time I talk to you, I want to pay tribute to the great Rush Limbaugh. But, I feel like my visceral reaction to this today was one, I'm damn angry. Can I say damn on the radio?
Yes, you can, because I'm pissed off, too.
We're all pissed off. And I feel like there's millions of us, Mark. I feel like the best way to pay tribute and to continue the legacy of this great man, he was a great man, just like you are a great man. So Sean Hannity and Rush, Glenn Beck, so many great people that do this work every day. But he did something that no one else did. He went into the universities and the colleges, and he talked to young people, and this is our future. We got to continue his legacy, and it's human to want to act in the anger, but I feel like we need to just take a step back and go ahead and grieve for a minute And then we need to carry on his legacy the way that he wanted, because he.
No, I said that earlier. I agree with you, and I posted that many, many young people are going to feel a huge loss here, and they should be angry. And as the days goes on, as you try and fill Charlie's shoes and do as Charlie would do, which was re-engage and be more effective than ever before. So I absolutely agree with you, Dustin. Thank you for your call. Ken, Waterbury, Connecticut, XM Satellite. Go right ahead, please.
Sir, thank you so much for taking my call. I appreciate it. And I'm going to reiterate what everybody else did. I'm a very pissed off American patriot right now. And I have three feelings right now, Mark. Quickly, I know you're running out of time. I'm obviously angry, confused, and a big part of me wants action. The anger is the left has been pushing this rhetoric on conservatives for years now, and they need to be held accountable. They keep calling us Nazis and all this other garbage, and they honestly, if these liberals, they're sheep that they have, and I call them sheep. They all nod their heads while they eat their grass. They obviously have mental health issues.
Yeah, I agree with you, Ken. Unfortunately, we're going to have to go. And I want to salute the late, great Charlie Kirk. But today is not the end of this. We will talk about him many, many times, many years over. His influence is enormous. Say a prayer for his family and the country. See you tomorrow.